understand that accounting is important and that it's the foundation for any successful business, because what happens when you aren't having enough revenue coming in? Your business is gonna die. But come on, accounting is so detail oriented. I never wanna do this. You know what? I think I'm just gonna wing my exam tomorrow, and whatever happens, happens, because I don't wanna do accounting. Hi, my peeps, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Gina here, and for today's video, I'm going to be doing a 5 study tips for a lazy student. We can all admit that studying is not our most favorite thing to do, and when we do tend to study, it's because we have a goal in mind. And even myself, I never enjoyed studying. And so for today, I just wanted to suggest some tips that I've learned and have given to others to see if maybe it'll help you guys feel more motivated to keep on studying. You don't want the reason why you got a bad grade on your exam is because you chose not to study. So let's get started. So for my first tip is to know your VARK score. And what VARK stands for is visual, auditory, reading and writing, and kinesthetics. And what that means are a tailored student towards a certain way you like to get things done. If you're a visual learner, you like things to be presented to you. If you're an auditory learner, you like things to be explained. If you are a reading writing, you like to read the textbook and then write it aloud. Or if you're kinesthetic, you like to be actively doing something while you are learning the information. And for myself, I'm a kinesthetic learner. I like to be doing something while I'm learning. So for example, in my accounting class, when my professor would go down the examples, I would like to be writing it down and writing little things to help me remember, okay, so this is a debit, okay, this is a credit, okay, this is why it's being used in this situation. And so that's something that'd be very important for yourself, because you need to know who you are as a person. So when you do go to class and take your notes and everything, you know which is the most successful way to get that done and retain the information. So when you go home and study your material, it's not going to be that hard, and you don't get upset with yourself when you don't remember what was being told in class. So that's the first thing I would suggest, is to know what type of learner you are, because that can really help with your studying. If you know that you're a visual learner and you like to see things the whole time, you've been doing an auditory type of learning, and that's why you haven't been doing too well with your studying habits and your exams, is because you didn't realize that you are a certain type of learner and you thought you were somebody else. So that's the first thing I highly recommend, is trying to figure out what type of learner you are, because then you're going to really see your grades and your performance in your classes progress into the right direction. So my second tip on becoming a better studier is go to class. Don't make up excuses, don't sleep in, don't say, I'll get my notes from someone else. No, go to class and take notes. For example, in my accounting class, you can read the text, but if you're not in class, you're not going to know when is the right time to use it, what examples are being shown on how to properly do it right. And you don't want to rely on someone else's notes, because they probably took notes that help and better themselves as a student, and they won't be the same as the notes that you would have written for yourself. And you're going to be missing out on a lot of important criteria that probably didn't make it on the PowerPoint. So when you go home and study, if you were in class, you would remember, okay, so Professor so-and-so said this when it comes to this type of situation. As for if you didn't go to class and you're just on the computer trying to read the PowerPoints and say, okay, I get it, but do I understand it? I can relay the information back to someone, but do I understand what I'm actually saying? So that's something I highly recommend, is just go to class. Don't be lazy. Don't think that, oh, if I miss a class, that'll be okay. Which, if you're actually sick, or if there's something going on and you have to miss a class, you miss a class. But if you're just voluntarily missing classes just because, that's not going to help you become any better of a student, because you're missing out on key information that could be used on an exam or an essay, or even in everyday life, a conversation that you can be having with someone. That's something I've realized as a tutor, especially a business tutor, is for me going into my classes, I've learned different examples and different ways of approaching certain subjects. So when I go and tutor someone, I have a lot of tools that can be used to really help my tutee understand the information that's being presented at them. So that's why I really, really, really recommend that you know what type of learner you are so you can successfully retain the information in your college course class. Otherwise, you're going to have to just rely on other people, and relying on other people will not get the job done for you because you are doing it for yourself and no one really has to do anything for you. So my third tip is to understand your why. Why are you in this class right now? Why are you taking Bio 101 or Accounting 1 or Art History 100? What's your reason for it? Is it a general ed class? Do you need it for your major? Are you just trying to learn more information? Having this change in mindset of knowing why you're doing something will really help you manifest the goals that you have in mind. I know that for me as a business student, I took some classes that weren't really necessary for business, but they were necessary for me to get my degree. And understanding my why, understanding why I have to put in the effort to study a little harder, read the textbook, or do well on the homework really motivated me to sit still and just get the job done. If I wasn't so determined on doing well and really retaining the information, I probably wouldn't have studied as hard as I did and wouldn't have gotten the grades that I've achieved. So knowing your why and understanding why you're in that class right now, why did you choose to take macroeconomics instead of taking videography, something like that, can really help you realize, okay, I need to get this done. I need to do well if I want to succeed later on, if I want to get this grade, if I want to pass this class, if I even want to get this degree. So knowing why you're here and really honing in on that will make all the negative side comments that your self is telling you will go away, because you'll sit down and say, hey, I know I don't want to be in the zoology class, but I know I need to take it for my bio credits. I'll get this done. I'll stop complaining. It's only 16 weeks. And then I'll move on. And then I can say I took it and I'll go into the right direction on wanting to take the classes I truly enjoy. So that's my tip number 3, is actually knowing why you're doing this and why are you sitting in that chair right now listening to your professor's lecture. Okay, so tip number 4 is to set aside 20 to 30 minutes every day just reviewing what you learned in class, redoing homework problems, redoing quiz questions, trying to see if you can restate what the professor mentioned in class to somebody else. Is just take a little bit of time to refresh what you've learned. So that way you'd be studying technically every single day and going over material every single day. So when the exam is starting to come closer, you don't have to spend 1, 2, 3, 5 hours a day reviewing material, because you've been already taking that time and using it beforehand. Is take a lot of time to review everything when I came home. So that way when exam days were closer, I just needed to take this moment to refresh everything, not relearn everything. And especially in accounting, for my financial accounting number 2 class, I remember for the final, I started prepping for that 3 or 4 weeks before the exam. You can ask my friend who was taking the class with me. I would go up to her every time I see her and just start spitting out facts, spitting out balance sheets, income statement, when are we going to use this journal entry and everything, because I was always trying to make sure I was ahead of the game. So when the final exam did come, I wouldn't have to be so stressed about it, because I already knew I spent a lot of time, a lot of quality time reviewing the information. And even for my managerial accounting class, the way I would study is I'd do the homework, submit the homework, get my results for the homework, and then almost every day after that, I would just redo a problem or two just to make sure that the concept's still fresh in my mind. So when it came to the exam days, I already knew, okay, I feel pretty confident. So I wouldn't have to stress myself all the time. Managerial accounting isn't difficult, in my opinion. It is time consuming because you really have to think about everything. It's not like financial accounting where it's just black and white and you're copying a lot of information. Managerial accounting is more predicting, and so having that time beforehand to feel comfortable with the analytical steps that go behind it, it made me very comfortable for the exam, and I would finish fairly quick. I know for the final exam, I did the exam in like 20 minutes, and our class is an hour and 20 minutes, so that really shows you the reason why I highly recommend to take time every single day to at least redo, refresh, restate whatever concepts you've just learned or concepts you've learned prior to make sure that they're still fresh in your head. Okay, my fifth and final tip for y'all is to make sure that your studying time is quality studying time, that you're not pushing yourself to your limits, that you are still staying hydrated, you're getting a nice adequate amount of sleep, and that you know why you're doing this and you realize that this is important for you. And what I mean about good quality studying time is knowing, again, who you are. Are you a morning studier or are you a night studier? Do you like to redo homework? Do you like to redo notes? If you are a redo note taker, then make sure you're rewriting your notes in a certain way that feels achieving. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're a bio major, because when I started Sierra College, I was a bio major, so I had a very specific way of how I did my notes for test taking. Okay, let's talk about my chem class. I would take my chemistry lecture notes that I've taken throughout the past 3 or 4 weeks, and I would rewrite them in a format that would show what I first learned, and then going in a order that made sense into what I've just recently learned that class. So that way I could see the timeline of what I've learned and how each thing connects to what. So I know that when I would be studying, it would all make sense to me. For financial accounting especially, learn what's a credit and a debit, and then know which journal entries are appropriate for when it's spending money, needing to get paid back, you just paid in cash. Doing it in that type of way will help you retain the information better, because you'll know, okay, because I did this, this is why I have to do this. So when you end up doing the balance sheets and the income statements, everything would just flow right together to the very end. So that's what I mean by quality studying, is having a system that will make sure you get the stuff done and that you understand, okay, this is the most appropriate way for me to learn, to retain the information and actually feel like I'm understanding it and I can restate it to someone else. Again, I just highly recommend that you know the type of student you are, so that way you can have the most useful time management skills. Conclusion, the most important thing I want you to take away from this video is knowing your why. Why did you decide to go to college? Why did you decide to get this major? Why are you deciding to go and achieve this type of profession? Because understanding why you are doing this will help you realize that this isn't a time to slack off. This is a time to get in, get job done, and move on. That's really what helped me stay an active studier, is I knew what I wanted. Even when I did my major change, I right away knew what type of profession I was thinking of pursuing, and it just motivated me to always keep studying and always to keep working. And of course, I had my moments where I didn't want to study and I skipped a few days of studying because I didn't think it was something I really wanted to do at that moment. But that's fine, because I ended up studying later on. I didn't take that mindset and kept it until the end of the semester. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done as well as I did in my classes, like I mentioned. Once you realize your why, you'll start seeing success and start achieving. Knowing the type of student you are will help you become a better student in your classrooms and help you become a better studier outside of the classroom. You'll want to do your homework, you'll want to do great on the quizzes, because you know every single information being provided will be useful later in life. Even your general ed classes, they might not have to pertain to the subject that you're majoring in, but it's just good knowledge to have. And just don't stop studying because it's not a class that has to retain with your major. It's going to help you in the long run. And then when you do spend time taking classes on your specific major, just make sure you're working really hard and you're understanding, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do, so I need to put in the effort to get the grades I want. Just putting in the effort now is going to be so much more rewarding than when you're about to take the exam and realize, darn it, I didn't do anything, I should have studied and I didn't because I played Fortnite. And I understand it can be a little isolating at times, especially when you study by yourself because you're someone who prefers the quietness and not have to wait on others or hear other people's conversations, it's okay, because you're doing what's best for you. And if you know that's how you're going to witness yourself succeed is by separating yourself from others, then that's what you got to do. You have to make sure you're doing well in school. Of course, you don't want to isolate yourself completely and then have no more friends. You're not really having a social life. So use the time, if you do a study group, to make it your social life and have fun and connect a little bit. But if you're someone who just genuinely prefers to be alone as you do homework or study, then that's you. Don't be ashamed of it. Just own up to it, because it's okay, and you're going to be the one succeeding compared to the person who realizes that they are an independent studier, but they want to be with their friends instead, and then they aren't doing so well because instead of studying, they're just joking around. So that's my tea on how to become a better studier if you're a lazy student. And I hope all or some or even one of the tips I gave you guys works, because you're going to watch yourself have a lot more success with this upcoming semester or quarter or whatever type of system your school is on. So I wish you all a lot of luck, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Well, now that I've understand how to become an effective studier, I'm now going to take 30 minutes every day to review my accounting work and watch myself progress in my academic learning.